Hey, this is Matt Peterson, founding editor of The American Mind and vice president of education at the Claremont Institute, where I am right now, coming to you to talk about populism, right and left. And I think, as I said last time, where things get really unstable in any regime is when you have a united many that sees an overclass or a wealthy, powerful few as the enemy, and the other way around. The powerful few also sees the many as a mass that needs to be controlled and really fought against to solidify their own power. And the problem is when you're in this situation without a middle class, those two groups, they just fight each other because the many have power because they're numerous, and they think we can go charge the hill and take all the rich people's stuff from the big house on top of it. And the wealthy want to preserve what they have, and they want to transfer it when they die to their kids. This is the natural sort of way of regimes. And we're in a situation now in which increasingly it's going to become obvious to people that we do have a kind of oligarchy in this country that's acting in concert as one to protect their interests in a way that doesn't necessarily correlate with the interests of the United States of America. So as I said last time, it used to be on the right especially, we would say, look, what's good for, Ford is good for America. What's good for the big corporation is actually good for the country. And if people at the top are doing well, that will trickle down to everybody else. And there's always some truth to this, no doubt about it, especially if you have a sensible economic system where interests are aligned in a structural way with particular interests for companies and people to become wealthy and powerful are aligned in a structural way with the interests of the United States of America. But I think that ship has sailed. Is always only roughly partially true, but that ship has sailed some time ago, and so there's debate about that. Is that true or not? Are these mantras of the right, still true or not? I don't think they are. So here we are in a situation in which increasingly the population on both right and left is very upset with this establishment, this group of people who claim to have the expertise and the knowledge and the right mantras and the right ethics, because they're good people, damn it, to lead the country forward, and an increasing majority of Americans thinking, no, I don't trust these institutions that they run. I don't trust these people anymore. At no time was this greater in recent memory than at Joe Biden's inauguration, when you saw them all together, and the American people looked from Republican to Democrat, Democrat to Republican, and Republican to Democrat again, and it was hard to tell which was which. So that's an interesting dynamic because that opens up a disturbing possibility, which is that you could have a merger of right-leaning and left-leaning populism. I don't know if this is realistic or not, but you could see the unity, even in the memes afterwards. So really popular, everyone has seen Bernie in the chair, disgruntled, right? And the reason that meme is easily shareable and became popular is because it was a safe way to register your dissent with all those bastards, with the whole lot of them, right? Because you like Bernie sitting there just being grumpy, the fly in the ointment at the day. Now, Ted Cruz actually looked hilarious as well and disgruntled. He would have been a great meme, but he's still somewhat threatening to the regime, so that's not allowed. Bernie, on the other hand, is have been rendered totally toothless twice. He clearly is not the actual populist leader that the folks on the left want. I think they're deluding themselves if he's capitulated to his overlords in the Democratic establishment multiple times now. But it's safe. So it's safe to share the meme of him in the chair standing against the rest of American, the American political class. So what's been interesting about Trumpism from the beginning is that, there's aspects of Trumpism and the old left or a populist left that are similar. This is in fact the case. So, for instance, opposition to immigration because it's bad for American workers. This used to be common sense. There's been a lot of money poured into scholarship to say, no, you can just replace people in America very easily and bring people in from all countries. It doesn't have a negative effect on American jobs at all. I mean, this is all ridiculous. I mean, this was common sense, and the old left, the kind of Cesar Chavez left, they understood this perfectly well because it's true. The more you have illegal labor or quasi-illegal labor, people who really can't stand up for themselves and are impoverished, flooding the job market, the more people will take advantage of that, and it will be bad for the economy because it will be bad for the American worker. So that's one area in which, I mean, that's perfectly Trumpy, right? Looking at regulation or breaking up some of the monopolies. I mean, I don't know when it became a conservative tenet that there's no such thing as monopoly. The whole problem with monopoly, it used to be, I mean, even libertarians were supposed to understand this, that it creates a market that isn't free, where one colossus dominates everyone else and eventually stifles progress and prevents new companies from rising up. It gets rid of competition. Big business doesn't want competition. They want to dominate. Since when was, I don't know when the right jettisoned that, but, that's Teddy Roosevelt. That's also an older school leftist understanding that big corporations are not necessarily your friend. They have their own interests, and they used to be bad in the movies. Now they're great heroes, of course, because they will censor Donald Trump and they will put out statements about woke political commentary on everything that's going on in America. And they'll institute struggle sessions and propaganda for all their employees for the left. And that's how they've kind of bought the left off. The right has an opportunity to stand here. But you can see that when it comes to the base in both parties, I mean, in a way, the Republicans are much more advanced. Donald Trump was essentially a rejection of, on the part of voters, a rejection of conservative candidates and conservatism as it had metastasized. And the left tried to do this with Bernie against their own establishment, but it failed. And their own establishment is far more powerful because they're actually the cool kids in the room who run most of the major institutions in the country. So they were able, unlike in the Republican Party, which wasn't able to fend off Trump, they were able on the left to fend off Bernie, no problem. It also helped that he was an old, grumpy New Englander and white male, and they have apparently a problem with that in their party. But it's not going to last this way forever. There are plenty of people on the left who are dissatisfied with their party in the same way. In some of the issues are actually similar. They're actually the same, exactly. In the same way that Trump voters were upset with the Republican Party. Neither party has really reconciled with this. The Republican Party is now about to find out that the old school leaders have no base, and the base is purely on Trump's side. Vast majority of people are still about Trump's agenda. That hasn't changed at all. They're not going anywhere. So the Republican Party is about to run itself aground, perhaps. And the question is whether a new party will start, and that will become the stand-in for the Republican Party, and the Republican Party will die, like when the Republicans first established their party and the Whig Party died, or whether there will be a kind of quick spreading like wildfire reform of the Republican Party towards MAGA-style candidates in terms of the agenda. But you have people in Washington, D.C. who still don't even understand the Trump agenda. They don't see a coherent set of policies that are populist. That's how far gone they are. And those people are both Republicans and Democrats. So the flip side of that is this question we've been talking about. So you have a left-leaning populists, and then you have right-leaning populists. And what's the difference? And does it matter? Well, I think it matters a great deal. Because the danger of a populist movement is that you do have a kind of French Revolution, supposedly for the people, that turns into something disastrous, like communism. And there's sort of a nonchalant way of talking about this on the left with someone like AOC, who you could say is a populist, but she speaks in a language that's very familiar to people from other countries who are who know how this can go wrong, and it's pernicious because there's a kind of normalizing of concepts, solutions to the problems that populism accurately identifies. That are, radically left-leaning, that have failed in other countries multiple times, and that, frankly, organizations like the Heritage Foundation and Normicon World are just right about. I mean, some aspects of, socialism or actual communism, they've failed. And AOC will actually, just gravitate towards that in kind of an unthoughtful way, along with a lot of the DSA types. They're not all this way. Some of them are very thoughtful. But that tends to be the problem. On the right, I think the problem is often a lack of definition. It's not really clear what the solution is yet because there isn't a DSA, and that's the equivalent of the Democratic Socialists of America as a party within a party on the right. So this would be something like the Patriot Party in a way that's adjacent to and combines with the Republican Party. It's an extra signifier at on your name, or maybe it's even an entire other party that then infiltrates the Republican Party and changes it, just like the DSA has done in the Democratic Party. That's what we're talking about. So what prevents that on the right? What would the right solution be to some of these problems? Let's look at this quickly in the time we have left. So take something that AOC is right about and Bernie's right about, the over-financialization of the economy, say, the problem of GameStop and the hedge funds and what they're revealing. Or take their understanding that student loan debt is not just a matter of some bad choices by some kids, but a structural system of fraud where people are lied to by the culture and then given a worthless product, and we're subsidizing it. I mean, so they accurately portray the problem of student debt, and there's some people on the right who don't get it. I mean, they're just older. They don't see the scene. They don't see the context. They don't understand that, relative to everything else, tuition has skyrocketed. Well, what you actually get from college has plummeted. So AOC and Bernie accurately identify the problem of student debt, as opposed to a lot of establishment Democrats and Republicans. And on the populist right, you have a lot of people as well, especially younger, who understand the depth of the student debt problem and want to propose radical solutions to solve it. What we haven't done yet is get to the point where it's clear what even the significant fractures are within this populist coalition, and what some of the solutions that we all can hang our hats on are that we're putting forward as policy. So in education, I think it's you can see it. You can see just a little bit of it coming up. I think most people would rightly say, well, we need to get rid of the federal loan system, right? And we need to put colleges on the hook for bankruptcy. These are some concepts that have emerged that are very good, that I support, you can see what the policy platform would look like. But there's still a lot of work to do in hashing that out. And there aren't any institutions or structures that allow you to hash out this new policy agenda. And here's the problem. If we don't do that, the other side they'll propose their solutions outside of normie-con establishment world or normie-dem establishment world. And their solutions will be in fact bad. It will be, the crazy stuff that you think, listen to Bernie and AOC, the crazy stuff they say about solutions. They will in fact start enacting some of that stuff if we don't have a coherent platform that serves as an alternative. And in the meantime, I think the middle stuff a lot of it will die. You can't have a party of elites based on 20% of America. It's definitely melding together right now, as the other half of America also melds together, at least on the identification of the problems that populists on both sides identify. So there's almost two shadow parties in my view, where all the energy is on the right and left. You have the DSA types, or the Bernie types on the left, and then you have they haven't gone away. It hasn't disappeared. And then on the right, you have really MAGA, which is the majority of the base. That's where all the energy is. And all the new right kids, all the younger people who see that, that's where all the intellectual energy is. But they don't have the institutions and the support that some of these folks do, their counterparts on the left do. And the race is sort of who is going to create the new parties moving forward and who's going to do a better job first. We are going to need to work together. We're going to need a lot more support from a lot more people out there who should know better in order to solve this problem and get ahead of them and propose some viable but radical solutions to the problems we face now in America. That's all the time I have. Thank you and have a good week.